Human trafficking suspects or predators of human trafficking lurk everywhere.
And this has been a major issue within Houston. Houston is ranked #1 in sex trafficking cases in the U.S.
It's not always female. It can be boys, it can be men, it can be women.
Oftentimes people think that they're talking to someone of their own age, and they're not.
So human trafficking is being taken into a situation by force, violence, or through other means of manipulation. And whether it's to go into servitude, such as a domestic servant, being made to work at a hotel, or be a maid, or things like that, or there's sex trafficking, that's part of that. So, where people are providing commercial sex for sale.
Well, there's different ways that individuals are lured into trafficking. When you're talking about young adults in our area, oftentimes the method of luring is through online or social media. Oftentimes individuals will reach out to young adults. They look for vulnerable individuals who may not have a great home life, may not have certain wealth or items of what would be considered wealth, and they kind of work with, I say work, but they kind of have those communications with those individuals online or through social media, and they work to try to get them to divulge certain information that they can build off of, and then they start making promises. And they make promises of certain lifestyle changes or certain gifts, money, and young adults get lured into that and thinking that they're going to receive something greater than they have. And then once the individual knows that they are going to be willing, then they may give some small gifts to continue the luring, and then they eventually look for a time or a place to meet up. And that's when you become most vulnerable, and that's when it's dangerous, is because at that point most young adults don't tell others that they're going to meet someone who is making these promises to them, and at that point they disappear.
My wife was a city inspector with the health department and building codes for about 20 years, and I remember back in the early 2000s, she was doing a lot of cantinas in Houston, and they had sex rooms. A lot of them had little closets where they were bringing in prostitutes from Mexico, and basically these girls were prisoners, and they would hold them in there. And I remember I went with her to one. She wanted me to come look at this, and they had a false floor in this cantina where you picked up this trap door, and they had cots down there where they stored the girls. They actually were putting them under the floor and hiding them under the floor. Now they had little rooms where they'd have sex, but they actually made the girls stay under the floor. They kept them down there. They were prisoners. And that was in the city. That was 20 years ago. And I'm sure it's still going on.
You face a lot of challenges, psychologically, emotionally, when you're a survivor of human trafficking. There's things that you have to work through because you have encountered or have been a part of activity that is very harmful to yourself, right? And most people do not. The majority of individuals across the country will never understand because they've never been a part of human trafficking. And so, a survivor of human trafficking has a significant story to tell, but they also need to make sure that they are receiving proper treatment to help them emotionally, mentally. And so, and people have to be understanding as well, because some people may be kind of mean-spirited and not understand what someone has been through and may joke about it, may make, sarcastic comments about it. And so you just have to be mindful that if there's a victim of human trafficking, that you're understanding and open to what they are going through and what they're having to live and relive in their mind of what they experienced during that time. CFISD and CFISD Police, we work with other organizations, other law enforcement agencies to ensure that we do everything we can to keep students safe while they're at school. We're not just law enforcement when we're in a school setting. We wear many hats. You know, we're mediators, we're counselors, you know, we're coaches, we're social, so that you get to be comfortable around us, so that you feel comfortable telling us when something may be wrong. If an individual allows themselves to be susceptible to human trafficking, then they're more, their odds are greater that something can happen. And so that's why it's very important as individuals, not just as law enforcement, but as individuals, that we're open and sincere when we talk to friends and people we know, so that they understand that we're here for them and that we're a safe place.